Yeah.
and British registered and all that sort of thing.
Oh, I
They
see.
wouldn't allow foreigners to come and fish from there.
Oh, I see. Yes, that's interesting. I went out to the Japanese cemetery yesterday. Oh, the other day. There's lots and lots and lots of graves there, aren't they?
Oh, well, of course, we used to lose a lot of men, you know. One year we lost 31 divers.
What year was that?
Oh, I can't remember the year.
No. Before the war. Before the first war.
Oh, no, not necessarily.
No, that's right. There was a big cyclone in 39, wasn't there? 38. And somebody told me that the Japanese would go into deeper water and were more daring than the other divers. Is that so?
Well, very seldom you got the Malays or the Manilamen to go above what we used to call medium depths, you see, probably 10 to 12 fathoms. Now and again, an odd one would do it, but the Japs seem to take to the deeper water with more, assurance and ability than the other Asiatics.
What happened to the divers who got the paralysis and that? Did they go home, did they?
Well, in the first place, it was very unfortunate for a lot of divers. They were brought up and brought into Broome and probably never went diving again, and probably lost the use of a limb, and had to be sent back to Singapore. Whatever came of them, nobody ever knew. In later years, the Fellows Association, through their agent in London, got in touch with a firm there who interested the Admiralty in it, the British Admiralty. With the result, they formulated a system whereby if a diver had an attack, he was staged to start with, brought up gradually to give the nitrogen that got into the blood a chance to escape. If you brought him up too quickly, it couldn't, and the result was it formed a clot on the blood or in the blood, and it all depends where that brought up, in the circulation. If it brought up in the brain, of course, he was a hot case for life. Probably meant death. Some other place it might mean making an arm useless, or a leg useless. Well, with this new teaching that was brought into being then, I formulated a scale, and the fellows worked on it. But the result is, one year, as I say, we had 32 cases, as a matter of fact, 32 deaths through paralysis. We got it down in nearly every case where a diver was stricken with, we'll say, a touch of paralysis. He was cured, through the new method of staging.
I see.
Staging, and then brought into Broome and put in what they called it a depression chamber. He was put in a chamber, and then the air was pumped into it up to the stage that would have been equivalent to the pressure he was diving in, and that was gradually released at certain periods, you see, according to the scale that was drawn up, you see. He was left in the chamber, and the pressure was gradually released according to the scale that was drawn up.
Yeah.
The result is after a year or two practice and more knowledge gained and all that sort of thing, very severe cases which in the ordinary course would have left a diver a cripple for life, in 2 or 3 weeks of treatment, he was able to walk around the street free of any of the previous effects. Oh, it was a wonderful thing, that.
When was that, in between the wars or before the First World War?
Oh, that was between the wars.
Yes, I suppose the diving, pearling industry was responsible for a lot of the knowledge about diving that people have today, you know, I suppose.
I've heard, it was. It was, I tell you. But there were a lot of sad cases here in the very early days. Nobody could do anything if they didn't know then, you know. See, a man who went around dragging one leg along, and then if he left and went back to Singapore, when he got there, he was just a cripple and stayed so.
Did the Japanese come through Singapore? You only had to send them back to Singapore, not to Japan. Is that the idea?
In the early days, they all came from Singapore.
Oh, I see, yes.
And then later on, the Japanese formed their own agency, and they supplied them. We couldn't get Japanese towards the latter stages through our usual agents, you see. We had to get them through the Japanese club here.
Oh, I see. They're pretty well organised.
Oh, I heard they were. Oh, I think it was for the best. They looked after the Japs and made it easy to get them, whereas there was a lot of trouble before, and you didn't know who you were getting. You see, they'd pick up any old thing and send it down to you now.
Yes.
But if there's any Japanese, say in Singapore, with a bad reputation, the Japanese agency wouldn't send him down here.
Oh, I see.
They didn't want him to. He'd only cause trouble with all the other Japanese down here, see, and they looked after all that. They did a good job.
Yes, it's. I hadn't realised it was quite so organised.
And others walking sticks. And in those days, nobody seemed to bother much about them. There was no Japanese club or anything like that. And a lot of them were, people born in Singapore itself, you see. Well, they were just sent back.
I believe
Nobody bothered further about them.
I believe there was a Japanese hospital.
Oh, yeah.
Who was that
A
run
Japanese
by?
doctor. We had a Japanese doctor here.
Who ran that? The Japanese?
The Japanese themselves.
Did
Japanese
they?
club ran it. Yeah. And very good too. They had a good doctor. A good Japanese doctor here. Well, of course, mind you, there was room for it because we had, when that happened, we had 300 odd luggers, you see, 350 luggers. That was when the heyday of pearling.
Would there have ever been, at that time, in the heyday, were there more Asiatics than white people in Broome? Or were there more white people, would you say?
Well, if you counted the half-caste and all that sort of thing, I think in the aggregate, the Malays, Manilamen, and their families, you know, they'd been coming here for years and years, and they'd read families, married other half-caste and all that sort of thing. I think they would have been numerically
More.
in the ascendant.
Yes. Yes, I suppose they would have. There's still quite a number of mixed race people here now, aren't there?
Yes, all they're descendants of the originals. Oh, they're quite a good crowd though. They're well behaved and of course known very little trouble. And they're good workers. You walked about here now yourself. You wouldn't see much to complain about, would you?
No. Not on a very law-abiding sort of a town.
Yeah.
I believe it was always a fairly honest sort of a town. You know, you could leave your doors and windows open.
Yes. When I first got married in 1910, we'd go to the pictures and leave our place open.
Bit hard to lock 'em up, wouldn't it?
The only thing is, you didn't want to leave any drink lying about. There might be an odd native. It'd be probably, 3 sheets in the wind himself, and if he thought he could hop in somewhere and find a few bottles of beer, he'd do it, see?
The pictures here from the early days, were they? Have pictures here in the very early... You must have had pictures here a long while?
I think they started in 909, I think.
What, the silents? Silent movies?
Yeah, the silent ones,
That's
yeah.
right,
Oh, yeah.
yes.
Oh, the talkers didn't come till years after.
That's right. Did they used to have a lady playing the piano?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, the lady playing the piano.
She'd play fast at the exciting bits.
Then they got one of these mechanical players.
Oh, pianolas.
Yeah.
That's right. I suppose they were all the thing.
Oh, yes. Well, we enjoyed ourselves. And mind you, in those days, they really gave us some really good pictures.
Did they?
Oh, my word, they did. Very seldom you went to the pictures and were disappointed. Of course, there was always the odd occasion,
Yeah. Yes, the pictures were a great thing for country towns.
Yeah. Oh, they were great. The crowd used to go.
Well, I suppose I'd better go home and feed my fish to be a story of San Joanne. Yeah.
Well, of course, he died years ago, and that was the end of it. End of the name as far as the Broome was concerned.
I see. Who was he?
He was a Manila man.
Oh, that's an interesting name.
Huh?
Sounds like a Spanish name, doesn't it?
Well, they're Spanish.
Are they?
Oh, they speak the Spanish language,
I see. Yes, I see that a Portolano, Miss Portolano got married on Saturday.
That's right. Yeah.
They're an old family too, aren't they?
Yeah.
Is that the same Portolanos used to live out at Lombardino? And they used to have the mission was built on out at Lombardino. A bloke called Tom Portolano owned it, the land out there.
There was several of them, you see, several branches of the family.
I see.
And they're all good church people. So if you hear them out at Beagle Bay, well, you can understand it.
Yes, they seem to have been here for a long while. They must have been here before the Act.
4 years ago I'm talking about now. It was over there in that house, I think, and Jim was only a little lad about that high, So he came round there, crabs. Now we were selling crabs. So I brought 3 or 4 crabs off him and all that sort of thing, and he was very pleased, the old chap. Anyway. Well, he said, "Goodbye, master." And he turned to Jim, to Jean, "Goodbye, missy." And he turned to Jim, and he said, "Goodbye, Mr. Gentle Boy."
The gentle boy. Dear.
Yeah.
You know...
Came here, they all took it for us very, very honest, He was very, very honest, the Chinaman. The early fellows here all say, they'd take a Chinaman's word, but they wouldn't take a lot of white men's signatures. I'll tell you what, it's fact, But of course now, they've learnt all the ups and downs of
ins and outs.
Life. Polished with oil and linseed oil,
Yeah. Oh, dances on the veranda at home were common, were they?
Oh, that's for an evening at home.
Piano, would you dance to? Piano? Or what would you have for music?
Plenty of pianos in Broome in those days. Where they've all gone to, I don't know. I think Daddy Christmas must have got them.
And people could play, like, could they? There was always...
Oh, we had any amount of musicians there.
Did you?
And singers too, but you never hear anybody sing now.
Oh.
Have you heard anybody sing since you've been here?
Mm.
That's I don't know. It's hard to understand, really.
Well, you can't blame it on television up here, can
No,
you?
canned music, of course, now is
Yeah.
rules the roost. Nobody seems to want to listen to anything else.
Oh.
The days have gone by. You'd go to a vaudeville theatre or something. Well, you'd always have good singers coming on, you know, to sing songs. And
Did you have vaudeville shows ever come up here, did they?
oh, yes.
They come travelling up the coast, would they, to all the towns?
Oh, well, they'd go to Singapore probably too, you see.
Oh, I see.
And then call it Broome.
Singapore further away from Broome than Perth is it?
Huh?
Is Singapore, would it be quicker to go to Singapore or Broome by ship? I'm sorry, quicker to go to Singapore or Perth by ship? Be about the same, or is Perth closer?
Well, not much different.
Not much different. I suppose this is one of the closest parts of Australia to Asia, really?
Yeah, well, Darwin would be.
Darwin. Yes, that's right, to New Guinea. But you'd be closer to Asia than you would, say, to the Melbourne, wouldn't you? It's a big country.
It's got a great coastline, hasn't it, eh?
Beautiful coast, I think Australia's got. Lovely. Have you travelled much around Australia?
Oh, no, I haven't. I've only gone from Melbourne up to Darwin, that's all.
You should take a cruise.
Oh, yes, but it's a bit late in life for me to think about that now.
Tell us about the Bishop's Palace. How did you come to live in the Bishop's Palace?
Well, I was friends of his representative when the bishop was away.
Now, is this the Catholic bishop or the Church of England bishop?
Church of England.
Oh, I see.
Church of England.
Yeah.
I forget what he called himself. He was a bishop something. I can't think of it.
Hang on a sec, would you? I'll just turn the fan off. It makes a noise, interferes. Yeah. Well, how did you come to be living in his palace? I mean, is it a palace or just a house, is it?
Well, he was away most of the year, really.
Was it?
Oh, he only came up here now and again, that's all. And Mr. Mackenzie that used to live here used to look after affairs for him, you see, and look after the church and all that sort of thing, and he used to rely on him, see. And he and I, this Mr. Mackenzie, were great friends. So he felt lonely, and instead of me living in a house by myself, I decided to go down and live down there, you know, and we lived there for years and years. Many years, as a matter of fact.
And did the bishop only come sometimes?
He only used to come up now and again, you see.
And then you'd move out, would you?
And now and again there was a padre here, they called him a padre, you know.
Oh, yeah.
A minister. He'd come up and stay here for a while, and he'd live over there with us and come and have one with us when we
Was this after your wife died? When did your wife die?
Oh, 926.
Oh, I see. You've been a widower for a long while.
Mm.
She must have been quite young.
Yeah, it's a long time now.
I see. And so you go over there with Mr. Mackenzie and have a jolly old bachelor time, would you?
Oh, well, there was nothing else much to do, really, you know. But mind you, Broome in those days, quite a different town to what it is now. As I told you before, there's such a lot of people, you know. Broome was their hometown. And they acted accordingly. You see, now, everybody here, they're only here for a spell. It might be 2 years, and then they're off. In 3 years' time, you've got a different lot of people here altogether, bar a limited number.
I see, yeah. And what was it about the ghost? Tell me about the ghost.
Well, listen.
Yeah. Now tell us it properly.
It was a funny thing, really. There used to be a West Indian lad there named Con Gill. He was well known and well liked by everybody, old Con, you know. He's a West Indian, and it appears that he went over there one night to do some little cause that he was always engaged to do, and he came up the front steps to go around, you know, to the living part of the what do you call it again?
The Bishop's Palace. The house.
The palace.
Yeah.
The palace. Well, it appears that day the bishop had a washing day. And of course, you know, they used to wear white trousers and white shirts and all that sort of thing. I had them hanging out in a line on the far end of the veranda. And Connor, our West Indian, he came up the front steps and then went along to turn round to go up, you know, to where all these shirts and singlets were hanging up, you know. It was a very windy night, and they were blowing about, you know. Oh, he cried, he sang out, he hopped over the railing, over the fence and ran to the Continental.
Oh.
And he reckoned he saw 7 or 8 ghosts. Well, just like a West Indian, you know.
Oh, I thought it was supposed to be of a blooming pearler who had his throat cut or something.
No. Don't take any notes of those.
No, I don't.
They're all furfies, those things.
Oh, I see. People made
Nothing like that at all.
People made it up after that.
No, that was the true thing.
Oh, I see. And people embroidered it.
I was living there at the time, and I knew all about it. Yes.
What were the
when they got round, you can understand it.
Yeah.
Shirts and things hanging up, you know. They belonged to the bishop too. He had a washing day. I don't know whether he got somebody in to do it, but there they were blowing about, you know. Well, you can understand the breeze can get very strong at times.
Yes, it can.
My word, it was funny though. Poor old Con.
The people around here, some of the dark people, are they rather superstitious? Do they believe in ghosts at all, or is that?
Oh, in the old days, a lot of them used to, but all those people have died out now. And,
yeah. Were there any famous?
The ones that have survived that are with us today, they're just as hard-headed as we are.
Were there any famous ghost stories around Broome? Did they have ghosts of divers who'd been, you know, drowned in accidents and things? They didn't talk about it.
Only for some of these visitors that used to come up there and write a book or something like that.
They used to make them up for the visitors, did they?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, I've been trying to get hold of Ian Idrius's 40 Fathoms Deep. If someone's
I've never read that.
Haven't you? Well, I think I could get you a lend of it if you want.
Oh, I don't know.
Can't be bothered.
Do you know? I don't. Look, I'm a great reader of the newspapers and you know, news of the day sort of business.
Yeah.
And facts. But fiction, look, I've never taken on to it.
Haven't you?
No, never taken on to it.
No, I suppose there was
40 fathoms deep wouldn't I?
You probably wouldn't make you cross, would it?
Well,
I
don't think I'd be interested in it. Because I know very well there'd be too many embellishments in it.
Yes, it's very interesting.
See, when you're anybody writes like that, they've got to try and make it interesting. If there's nothing that really happened, they create something, you see, in their mind and put it in the book. Eh? Oh, I've seen that happen often.
Yes.
Not that I've probably read them, but I've heard others talk about it, you see. And
I think what happens is the writer who comes and just wants to make a superficial sort of comes here for 2 days and goes there for 2 days, is looking for a cheap and easy sort of a sensation, and
yes,
they don't really want to know.
If he's not able to give it from the true facts, he creates them.
That's true. Yeah, well, the true facts are more exciting, but you've got to spend a bit of time looking for them, you see, and people don't, you see.
Oh, there have been 1 or 2 cases where they've stuck fairly well to facts, but then they've had to deviate a little bit, nowadays, because to make it a bit more interesting.
Yes, the funny thing, this old Ellie's you were telling me about, he seems to be a character in which there's been a terrible lot of nonsense written. Some people tell me his wife used to deal in diamonds, and his wife used to be covered with diamonds.
Oh, that's all nonsense.
Is it? That's very interesting. I thought it might be, because some people tell me she was, and some people... Now, Jimmy Chai, who used to work for Ellie's, said he never saw him touch a diamond in his life.
No. I think I knew Ellie's just as well as anybody, probably more so.
Yeah.
I used to do a lot of business with Ellie's. But I had 7 luggers once, and I was agent for a lot of luggers, and I used to take a lot of stuff along to him to get cleaned, and we'd talk and talk there for hours and hours. Sometimes, because when he cleaned a pearl for you, you had to be with him.
Yeah.
As I told you before,
Yeah, that's right.
You can understand.
And what do you say when you were agent for the luggers? That means you'd take their pearls and look after all their shore business, does that mean? Would that be for a bloke who was just in a small way, would he? Who'd have an agent?
A what?
Would a man who was just in a small way, would he have an agent to do his business for him?
Oh, it all depends. Sometimes I looked after the affairs ashore for pearlers that only had 1 boat, and all that sort of thing. We used to make a monthly fee.
And you send out pay their bills and that for them,
yes, I'd probably do that and send out their mails and things like that. Write them a letter now and again to give them some information about the market and pearl shell, and
I get you.
And when their shell came in, take delivery of it and handle it and have it packed for them. And
I see. Yeah, well, Jimmy Chai was telling me that on, I think, some boats, they had 1 Dodge. You tell me about the pearl box that they used to put the pearls in, the box.
Yeah, right.
That they had a Dodge, they used to stuff cotton wool down the hole, and they'd pretend to put the pearl in, and they get turned upside down, the pearl would run out again.
That's right.
Sort of thing like this.
Oh, there was some funny business.
Were there any pearl divers who were particularly famous for their, their skill, or were they all much of a muchness?
How do you mean?
Well, I mean, were there any really famous ones who brought up especially big catches of pearl, or were there any ones, crack top men, or were they all
it's
more or
very
less?
hard to say. You hear rumours. We know this, that a lot of pearls found, the pearling owner never saw them. We know that. And there were more snides going around Broome probably in some periods of the year than there were legitimate
Pearls.
pearls, being offered.
Oh, yeah. And you never were able
A
to stop it?
snide, as you know,
It's a stolen one.
is practically a stolen pearl.
I remember reading, I think I read 40 Fathoms Deep when I was a kid. And I remember, Ian Idris talking about blokes going mad over a pearl, and it, getting obsessed with it and not wanting to sell it, just keeping and looking at it. Was there much of that sort of thing?
No.
No, it was more just the money people were interested in, was it?
Oh, when some people write a book and all that sort of thing, they've got to allow a lot to the imagination, you see. They've got to make it interesting for people to read, you see. But if they do it in such a way that some people believe they're telling facts. Well, they couldn't be further away.
The main reason for pinching pearls would be that was the money involved, not that the pearl was wanted.
Well, anybody that wants to steal a pearl and all that sort of thing, he stole the pearl not to keep the pearl.
Steal the pearls to pay their gambling debts. How would they?
Or gambling or other debts and all that sort of thing.
Gambling was pretty common.
They lost their money gambling, you know. And they went to live big and buy dresses for their girlfriends and all that sort of thing, half-castes in the town. There used to be a lot of them there in those days, you know. They'd have to get money somehow.
I see.
And that was the easiest and best way to get it.
I see. I suppose the Japanese the divers were sort of the aristocracy of the cruise, were they? They'd get more dough and more money.
Oh, well, they had the wisest head.
Did they? I believe they had a club too.
Oh yes, a club, and well conducted.
And they ran they looked after them a bit.
Yes. Oh, it was a good thing. The club was a good thing.
Was it a bit like a union? Did they used to bargain about wages and things like that?
At one period there, they did act like that, you know, and it took several weeks to come to terms with them on account of the demands fixed by their committee, we'll put it this way.
Yes, I see.
And they hung out, you know, for rates of pay and lay, that is the payment for each ton of shell,
That's their lay.
were too high for the price of shell we were likely to get.
I see.
It meant that the pearlers, when they come to pay their men off at the end of the year, and the divers and all that sort of thing, they had very little left for themselves unless they were very careful about the terms and conditions. It was all right if shell went up in price and stayed there. As I explained to you before, very often towards the end of the year, the price went up, and when the new season shell opened, started to come in, and the market opened, there was a very big drop in the price.
I see. Yeah, and the pearls that you got, they were only they were only a bit extra, weren't they? The pearls weren't the main thing. The mother of pearl shell was the main thing.
No. The shell was the basis of the industry.
I see. And for instance, with pearls, now did your